He had always been someone who preferred quiet corners and calm afternoons. He liked to read and watch the world from a distance. He enjoyed thinking and dreaming more than talking to crowds or attending parties. Life had a rhythm and a pattern that he found comforting. He woke up early, read a few chapters of a book, drank coffee while watching the sky change colors, and then went about his day at his own pace. He liked it that way and saw no reason to change it his. Friends, however, had other ideas. They watched him from the sidelines with concern and sometimes with amusement. They saw him alone on weekends and thought about how long it had been since he had shared laughter with someone in a special way. They had tried dropping hints, suggesting he meet people. They had invited friends over, hoping he might connect with someone, but he had always politely declined. He said he was busy or simply not interested, but over time his friends grew impatient. They decided to take matters into their own hands. They knew a girl who they thought would be perfect for him. Someone who was kind, smart, and had a warmth that could reach even the quietest person. They thought maybe a gentle push was what he needed. Maybe a meeting would open his world in ways he had never expected. He, however, had no idea about any of this. His weekend started like any other. He brewed coffee, read a few chapters of a new book, and then stared at the sky through his window, thinking about the coming week. He was completely unaware that a plan had been set in motion for him that would change his life. His friends had texted him the night before, suggesting a casual meet, nothing formal, just a chance to talk to someone. They presented it as nothing serious, but made it sound intriguing enough to catch his attention. He had hesitated, but curiosity had won. He thought perhaps a short coffee meeting could be interesting. Even if nothing came of it, it would be harmless. The next day, he found himself walking to a small cafe in the heart of the city. He arrived early and chose a corner seat away from the window. He liked corners because they gave him a sense of security. He watched people pass by and observed the world with a quiet interest he always had. When she arrived, he did not expect to be struck so suddenly by her presence. There was something about the way she moved, the gentle way she smiled, and the quiet confidence she carried that made the world feel different. He felt a mixture of nervousness and excitement. He had never felt this before at a meeting that was supposed to be casual. He tried to focus on the conversation, but found it hard to keep his mind on anything except her. He noticed the little things, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear, how her eyes lit up when she smiled, and how naturally she laughed. He realized that the beauty that he noticed at first glance was only part of what drew him in. It was the warmth and the ease that made her presence so compelling. They talked about many things at first, simple topics about books, movies, and music. But as the conversation grew deeper, he found himself sharing thoughts and feelings he rarely expressed. He felt safe and understood in a way that surprised him. He discovered she listened with genuine interest and responded with kindness and humor. Time seemed to pass quickly. Could not believe how much they had talked in such a short span of time. He noticed how comfortable he felt with her, how effortless it was to laugh and share thoughts without pretense. He realized that this meeting was unlike any other he had ever had in his life. He tried to remind himself that it was only a setup arranged by his friends, that it was not supposed to be significant. But something inside him told him that this encounter was different. Something about the way she looked at him, the way she smiled, and the way the conversation flowed made him feel like he was standing at the beginning of something meaningful. By the end of the meeting, he felt a strange mix of exhilaration and anxiety. He did not want it to end. He wanted to continue talking to her, to learn more, and to see where this connection could go. But he also wanted to play it cool, to not seem too eager. He realized that he had been unprepared for emotions he had not anticipated. As he walked away from the cafe, he thought about everything that had just happened. The way the sunlight had hit her hair, the sound of her laughter, and the warmth of her voice lingered in his mind. He realized that he had been changed, even in a short span of a few hours, by simply meeting someone who seemed to understand him. He returned home with a strange excitement in his chest. He brewed another cup of coffee, sat by the window, and reflected on the encounter. He smiled to himself, thinking about the unexpected way his friends had nudged him. He realized that sometimes life had a way of arranging moments in ways that could surprise you. When you least expected Ita's evening came, he received a text from her, thanking him for the lovely time. He felt a wave of happiness that he had not expected. He replied with genuine warmth, feeling a connection that went beyond just the surface. He realized that perhaps this meeting was the start of something special. That night, as he lay in bed, he could not stop thinking about her. He remembered the way she had smiled, the way her eyes had shone, and the way her voice had sounded in conversation. He realized that this encounter had already left a mark on him, something that would linger for a long time. He had come to the meeting thinking it would be casual, but it had turned into a moment. He would remember. He thought about his friends who had insisted on setting this up. He felt a mixture of gratitude and amusement. They had pushed him out of his comfort zone and introduced him to someone who might just change his life. He realized that sometimes friends know what you need before you know it yourself. He closed his eyes and thought about the next meeting. He wondered what they would talk about and what more he could learn about her. He realized that he was curious not just about her beauty, but about her mind, her heart, and the person she was at her core. As sleep finally took him, he smiled quietly. He knew that life had a strange way of surprising you sometimes. It could take the smallest nudge, a casual meeting arranged by friends, and turn it into something that could feel extraordinary. He did not know what the future held, but he felt ready to discover. Heath could not stop thinking about her, the memory of the cafe, the way she smiled. Warmth in her voice stayed with him. Even as he went about his day, he found himself walking more slowly, noticing small things that he never paid attention to before. The way the sunlight hit the buildings, the soft breeze that carried the smell of fresh bread, and the sound of children playing in the street, it all seemed more vivid, as if the world had opened up a little since he had met Hera. A few days later, they decided to meet again. This time it was not just for coffee, but for a walk in the park. The air was crisp and the trees were beginning to show the first signs of autumn. They walked side by side, noticing the colors of the leaves, the small flowers that grew by the path, and the birds that sang above them. He realized that he enjoyed her company in a way that made everything feel lighter. They talked about their lives, their families, and the dreams they had carried quietly for years. He listened as she spoke about the little things that made her happy and the challenges she had faced. She spoke with honesty and openness, and he felt a sense of trust growing between them. He found himself sharing thoughts he had never told anyone else. He spoke about his fears, his hopes, and the way he sometimes felt out of place in the world. She listened with a patience and understanding that surprised him. As they walked, he noticed how natural it felt to be near her. The nervousness he had felt at the cafe had faded and been replaced by a calm comfort. He laughed more easily and found himself noticing small details about her, the way she tilted her head when she laughed, the sparkle in her eyes, and the gentle way she spoke. He realized that the beauty he had first noticed was only the surface. The depth of her kindness and the warmth of her heart were even more captivating. They stopped by a small bench overlooking a pond and sat quietly watching the water ripple in the breeze. He noticed how peaceful she seemed, how she could sit quietly and enjoy the moment without rushing. He admired that about her and felt grateful to be there. Sharing the same space, she glanced at him and smiled, and he felt a strange happiness that was hard to describe over. The next few weeks, they met often. Sometimes it was for a walk in the park, sometimes for a quiet meal or a simple coffee. They discovered shared interests and new things about each other. He learned about her favorite books, her love for music, and the way she found joy in simple things. She learned about his love for quiet mornings, his way of observing the world and the small routines that made him happy. With each meeting, the connection between them grew stronger. He began to feel a sense of anticipation whenever he thought about seeing her again. He looked forward to their conversations, the shared laughter, and even the comfortable silences that never felt awkward. He realized that he cared about her, not just for her appearance, but for the person she was and the way she made him feel. One afternoon, they visited a small art gallery. It was quiet and filled with paintings and sculptures that told stories in colors and shapes. They wandered slowly, noticing the details in the art and sharing their thoughts and impressions. He found that he enjoyed seeing the world through her eyes, and she seemed to enjoy his observations as well. They talked about the meaning behind the art and discovered new ideas and perspectives. As they left the gallery, they decided to walk along a nearby street lined with small shops and cafes. He noticed how she interacted with the world around her, the way she greeted a shopkeeper, the way she paused to look at a display, and the way she seemed genuinely interested in everything she encountered. He realized that her beauty was not just in her face or smile, but in the way she experienced life. They stopped at a small cafe for a quick drink and sat near the window watching people pass by. They continued their conversation about their childhoods, the dreams they had, and the small moments that had shaped them. They laughed about silly memories and shared stories that made them both smile. He felt a closeness growing that was different from anything he had felt before. One evening, after a long walk, they sat on a bench under the stars. He noticed the quiet way she looked at the sky and how peaceful she seemed. He felt a desire to be near her, to share the moment, and to simply enjoy her presence. They talked about hopes for the future, the kind of life they wanted, and the small joys that mattered to them. He realized that the connection was more than just attraction. It was a sense of understanding and trust that grew with each shared experience. Thought about how much he had learned about her in such a short time, how easily he could talk to her, how comfortable he felt, and how much he looked forward to seeing her again. He realized that what had started as a casual meeting arranged by friends had grown into something meaningful. He could not stop thinking about her, and felt a quiet excitement whenever he imagined their next encounter. The days that followed were filled with small moments of connection. They shared messages throughout the day, simple notes about what they were doing or small things that reminded them of each other. They found comfort in these little exchanges, and it made them feel closer. Even when apart, he realized that the bond they were forming was special and that it was growing stronger with time. One weekend, they decided to take a small trip to a nearby town. It was a spontaneous decision, but it felt natural. They walked along the streets, visited small shops, and enjoyed the sights and sounds of a place that was new to both of them. They shared meals and talked about everything from music to the meaning of life. He noticed how easy it was to be with her, how the time seemed to pass quickly, and how much he enjoyed simply being near her. By the end of the trip, he felt a sense of happiness and fulfillment that he had rarely experienced. He realized that her presence had brought a lightness to his life, a feeling of being seen and understood in a way that was rare. He noticed that he thought about her often, even when they were apart, and that he looked forward to the moments they would spend together as they returned home. He felt a quiet anticipation for what the future might hold. He did not know what would happen next, but he felt ready to explore it with her. He realized that the connection they shared was real, and that it was something worth nurturing. He felt grateful for the chance meeting and for the friends who had encouraged him to take that step. Night, as he reflected on the days they had spent together, he felt a warmth in his heart. He remembered the laughter, the conversations, the quiet moments, and the shared experiences. He realized that her beauty was not just in how she looked, but in the way she made him feel alive and understood. He felt a quiet excitement for the next time he would see her, and the moments they would continue to share them. Days after their trip felt different for him. He noticed a quiet happiness he could not explain. It was in the way he woke up looking forward to the day, and in the small smile that appeared when he remembered something she had said or done. He began to understand that what he felt for her was deeper than just admiration for her beauty. It was a sense of connection that touched him in ways he had never experienced before. They continued to meet often. Sometimes it was in familiar places, like the park or the cafe, and sometimes they explored new places together. He noticed the small details about her that made her unique. The way she listened to others, the way she noticed small things that most people overlooked, and the way she could make a simple moment feel special. He realized that he was learning from her about how to pay attention to the world in a more meaningful way. One afternoon, they visited a quiet library that neither had been to before. It was filled with the scent of old books and soft light that fell through tall windows. They wandered through the aisles, sharing their favorite books and discussing stories that had touched them. He felt a closeness in the quiet space and a sense of peace simply being near her. They laughed quietly at silly passages and exchanged thoughts on ideas that sparked their curiosity. He began to notice how her presence affected his daily life. Even simple things like walking through the city or drinking his morning coffee felt different because he thought about what he would share with her later in the day. He found himself more attentive to small details. Noticing patterns in life that he had previously ignored, he realized that being around her had opened his mind. In ways he had not anticipated, their conversations grew deeper. They discussed hopes and dreams, the kind of life they wanted to build, and the values that mattered to them. Both shared stories from childhood and moments that had shaped their personalities. He felt a sense of trust growing as he revealed parts of himself that he had kept private for a long time. She shared in return not just experiences, but also fears and vulnerabilities, and he realized that this openness made their bond stronger. Evening, they went for a walk along a quiet river. He noticed the reflections of the streetlights on the water and the gentle sounds of the night. She pointed out shapes in the ripples and told him small stories about her imagination he smiled at. The way she saw the world and felt a warmth in his chest that he could not ignore. The walk was slow, peaceful, and full of small discoveries about each other and the world around them. They began to share small routines. Together, like visiting a small bakery every Sunday or sitting by the lake watching the sunset. They found comfort in these rituals, and it made them feel connected even in silence. He noticed that he could simply enjoy her presence without needing to fill the space with words. This quiet companionship felt more meaningful than any conversation he had had before. As their connection deepened, he began to notice changes in himself. He felt more confident, more open, and more willing to take small risks. He realized that her belief in him and her way of seeing his good qualities encouraged him to see himself differently. He found that he wanted to be better not for anyone else, but because she inspired him to grow in ways he had not thought possible. One day they decided to spend an entire afternoon at a botanical garden. The air was filled with the scent of flowers and the soft hum of bees and birds. They walked slowly, noticing colors and textures. He watched her eyes light up when she saw something beautiful, and he felt a deep appreciation for the joy she brought to the world. He realized that her happiness and her way of finding beauty made ordinary places feel extraordinary. They sat by a small pond, surrounded by lilies, and watched the water reflect the sky. He noticed how calm she seemed, how she could simply enjoy the moment without worrying about the past or future. He felt a desire to be near her, to share this sense of peace. He realized that he had never experienced such a natural comfort with anyone else before. As weeks passed, their bond grew stronger. They began to support each other in small ways. He noticed when she looked tired and offered a listening ear. She noticed when he seemed anxious and offered quiet reassurance. They shared laughter and small adventures and built a rhythm of connection that was effortless and genuine. He began to understand that attraction was only part of what he felt. He admired her intelligence, her curiosity, and her kindness. He appreciated the way she could challenge his thoughts while still making him feel heard and valued. He felt a deepening respect and affection that went beyond surface level. One evening they sat together watching the sunset from a small hill. The sky was painted in shades of pink and gold. She leaned slightly towards him, and he felt the closeness as a quiet bond that did not need words. He realized that the moments they shared were building something real and lasting, something that was rooted in understanding, trust, and a growing sense of love. They began to talk about the future in gentle ways, not about plans for marriage, but about the kind of life they wanted to create together, the small dreams, the simple joys, the ways they could support and encourage each other. He noticed how natural it felt to include her in his thoughts about the days ahead. He realized that he was already imagining a life with her as a constant presence. He thought often about how unexpected this connection had been, how a casual meeting arranged by friends had grown into something so meaningful. He reflected on the small moments, the laughter, the conversations, and the quiet companionship, and understood that life sometimes had a way of guiding you to people who could change your perspective and your heart. As the weeks turned into months, he noticed a shift in his emotions. He no longer thought of her as someone new, but as a part of his life, someone whose presence felt essential to his happiness. He found himself looking forward to simple routines they shared and moments of quiet connection. He realized that this bond was more than fleeting attraction. It was a growing love that felt steady and true. He also noticed how she affected his interactions with others. He felt more patient, more observant, and more willing to offer kindness. He realized that the way she experienced the world had influenced him to notice beauty and goodness in places he had overlooked before. He felt grateful for the way her presence enriched his life in small and large ways. One rainy afternoon, they sat by a window in a small cafe watching the drops slide down the glass. They talked about small memories of childhood, about fears and lessons learned. They shared stories and reflections and laughed at the simple absurdities of life. He felt a warmth that came from being fully seen and understood. He realized that he had never experienced a connection like this before. The more time he spent with her, the more he appreciated the layers of her personality, her curiosity, her compassion, her humor, and her quiet strength. He noticed how these qualities made her beautiful in ways that went far beyond appearance. He felt lucky to be in her presence and eager to continue learning about her. He began to anticipate future adventures with her, not grand trips, but small experiences that they could share together, like trying new foods, walking new paths, or discovering small hidden places in the city. He felt a sense of excitement for the ordinary moments because they would be shared with her. He realized that the connection they shared made life itself feel richer. Even in quiet moments alone, he thought of her and felt a gentle happiness. He noticed the small gestures she had made, the kindness in her words, and the warmth in her presence. He felt a sense of comfort knowing that she was a part of his life and that they were growing together in trust and affection. He also recognized that this connection required care, attention, and patience. They had disagreements, small misunderstandings, and moments of doubt, but each challenge was met with conversation and understanding. He realized that true connection was not just about joy and laughter, but also about navigating differences with respect and empathy. By the end of this period, he felt a deep appreciation for the unexpected journey they had embarked on. He looked at her not just with admiration for her beauty, but with gratitude for the way she had touched his heart and transformed his world. He realized that the connection they shared was something rare and precious. He knew that life had a way of surprising you sometimes. A casual meeting arranged by friends could lead to moments that reshaped your life. He felt ready to continue this journey, to nurture this connection, and to explore what it meant to love and be loved in returns. Time went on, their bond grew stronger, but life also brought moments that tested them. They discovered that even the closest connections required patience and understanding. Small disagreements arose over opinions, daily routines, and ways of doing things. At first, these moments felt unsettling because neither was used to sharing so much of themselves with another person. He noticed that he sometimes became anxious when they disagreed, while she sometimes withdrew to think and reflect in evening. They had a small argument about plans for the weekend. It was nothing serious, but it highlighted differences in their personalities. He preferred a calm, quiet day, while she wanted something more adventurous. He felt frustrated that she did not see things his way, while she felt disappointed that he seemed unwilling to try new things. They spoke carefully, but the conversation was tense. He noticed a strange unease he had not felt before. After some quiet reflection, they decided to talk openly about what they felt. They found a bench in a quiet park and sat watching the leaves sway in the gentle breeze. He listened as she explained her desire for spontaneity and new experiences, while she listened as he described his need for calm and predictability. They realized that their differences were not obstacles, but opportunities to understand each other better. Through this conversation, they learned to compromise. He agreed to try new activities. She agreed to respect his pace. They laughed quietly at how a small disagreement had taught them so much about communication and understanding. He felt a relief that they could work through tension without losing the bond they had built. She felt reassured that he was willing to meet her halfway. There were also moments of doubt that came from outside influence. His friends sometimes teased him about how serious he was becoming. She occasionally wondered if he truly understood her, or if he would drift away in the future. They both felt moments of insecurity, but they shared these thoughts openly rather than letting them grow into distance. They discovered that honesty, vulnerability, could strengthen the connection rather than weaken it. One rainy afternoon, they took shelter under a small awning and watched the world pass by. Water splashed from the streets. People hurried by with umbrellas, and the city seemed alive with movement. In the midst of this, they shared their fears about the future, their hopes for the relationship, and the way they could support each other. He noticed how comforting it was to share his concerns with her, and how she felt the same. He realized that challenges were part of building a deep bond. They began to notice how much they had grown through these challenges. They were more patient, more empathetic, and more aware of each other's needs. He realized that love was not just about laughter and joy, but also about facing difficulties together. They found that even small disagreements, when handled with care, could teach lessons about respect and understanding. One evening, they attended a small concert in the park. The music was soft and melodic, and the night air was filled with the scent of flowers. He noticed how she closed her eyes and listened. Intently feeling each note, he felt a deep admiration for her passion for small moments of beauty. He realized that experiencing life together made ordinary events extraordinary. They also spent time reflecting on their past experiences individually. He learned about the moments that shaped her fears and dreams. She learned about his struggles with confidence and moments of quiet reflection. They shared their thoughts and feelings, slowly, patiently building trust and understanding. He noticed how much he admired her courage and how much she respected his thoughtfulness. Over time, they faced small challenges from work schedules, family obligations, and daily stresses. They learned to support each other through fatigue, frustration, and uncertainty. Simple gestures like a kind word, a gentle touch, or a shared smile became ways to reassure each other. He noticed that these moments of support made him feel closer to her than ever. One weekend, they decided to volunteer at a small community project. They worked together, planting flowers, cleaning spaces, and helping others. They laughed at small mistakes, encouraged each other, and shared the joy of making a difference. He noticed that seeing her care for others made him appreciate her even more. He realized that her kindness was part of what made their connection so special. They also had quiet evenings at home, cooking simple meals or sharing stories. He noticed how comfortable it felt to be with her. Even without words, they shared thoughts about books, music, and dreams. He felt a calm satisfaction in simply existing in the same space. He realized that connection was not just about adventure, but also about quiet companionship. As months passed, they noticed that challenges were less about conflict and more about growth. They learned to listen without judgment, to express feelings without fear, and to support each other without expectation. They realized that love was not a static feeling, but a living process that required attention, care, and empathy. They also began to dream about the future together. Not in a pressured or rigid way, but imagining small joys, trips, shared moments, and ways to support each other's growth. They spoke about the kind of life they wanted to create, about the values that mattered, and the happiness they hoped to nurture. He felt a quiet excitement for what was to come, and she felt reassured that they were building something real. One chilly afternoon, they walked along a river, watching the reflection of the city lights in the water. He noticed how she paused to point out small details, how she appreciated the beauty around them. He felt a sense of gratitude that he could share these moments with someone who saw the world with such wonder. He realized that beauty was not just in appearance, but in perception and experience. They also faced moments of miscommunication. He noticed how easy it was for assumptions to cause tension. She noticed that sometimes he hesitated to speak up when something bothered him. They worked together to recognize these patterns and communicate openly. They discovered that patience and dialogue were powerful tools in building understanding and harmony. Through all these moments, he felt a deepening appreciation for her. Her strength, her patience, her humor, and her empathy became parts of daily life that he could not imagine being without. He noticed that love was more than attraction. It was respect, care, trust, and shared experience. He felt fortunate to experience such a genuine connection. Began to celebrate small victories together, completing projects, taking small trips, or simply enjoying a sunny day became occasions for shared joy. They learned to create happiness in simple ways and noticed how these small moments built the foundation for a lasting bond. He felt a sense of security and contentment that was rare and precious. Even in quiet solitude, he reflected on the journey they had shared, the early days of nervous anticipation, laughter, the conversations, the small disagreements, and the resolutions, all contributed to a sense of growth and understanding. He realized that challenges were part of the path and that facing them together strengthened their connection. One evening, after a long day, they sat together on a small hill, watching the sky change color. He noticed how peaceful she seemed, how content and present she was. He felt a deep sense of connection and gratitude for the journey they were on together. He realized that love was not just about grand gestures, but about shared presence, understanding, and growth. They also spent time encouraging each other in personal pursuits. He noticed how her support gave him confidence to try new things. She noticed how his encouragement motivated her to take small risks. They realized that partnership meant lifting each other up and celebrating growth. He felt a sense of purpose in being there for her, and she felt the same as the weeks passed. They noticed that challenges no longer felt like obstacles, but as part of the journey. They laughed more easily, faced problems together, and built trust with every shared experience. He realized that the connection was strong enough to handle difficulties and flexible enough to grow and adapt. They also began to enjoy the ordinary moments more fully. A quiet morning with coffee, a walk in the park, a shared meal became occasions for connection. In joy, he noticed that these small moments contributed to a sense of contentment and stability. He realized that love was found as much in routine and consistency as in excitement and novelty. Through all these experiences, he noticed a profound shift in his perspective. He appreciated patience, kindness, communication, and empathy. He realized that love required effort, attention, and care, but that the rewards were extraordinary. He felt grateful to share his life with someone who valued the same things and nurtured the connection. Even as challenges arose, he noticed a steady growth in trust and understanding. They learned to navigate disagreements, celebrate joys, and support each other through uncertainty. He realized that love was a living process built from small moments and sustained by mutual care and respect. By the end of this period, he felt a quiet confidence in their connection. He admired her not only for beauty or charm, but for her patience, empathy, strength, and authenticity. He noticed how deeply she had become part of his life and how much their shared experiences had shaped him. He felt ready to face the future together. With her, the days felt brighter now that they had grown so close. Each morning brought a quiet excitement, and even ordinary routines felt special because they shared them together. He noticed how his thoughts often drifted to her, how he imagined telling her about small moments in his day and hearing her thoughts in return. She noticed the same and felt a warmth whenever she anticipated seeing him. They continued exploring new places, sometimes small streets in the city, hidden gardens, and quiet parks. Other times, short trips to nearby towns. They laughed when they got lost, discovered small cafes and shops, and shared the joy of being together in ways that were simple yet memorable. He realized that adventure was not just about distance, but about the moments shared and the companionship he had with her. One afternoon they went for a long walk along a quiet river. The sunlight glinted off the water, and the gentle breeze carried the scent of flowers. They spoke about dreams for the future, about what they wanted to learn and experience. They shared fears about growing older and worries about uncertainty. He noticed that opening up about these thoughts strengthened the bond between them. Rather than creating distance over time, they had become a part of each other's routines. Even in small ways, she would send a message to check if he had eaten or remind him to take a moment to rest. He would leave little notes or small surprises for her too. Bright in her day, he noticed that these gestures made life richer and created a quiet stability and comfort that both of them valued deeply. They also faced challenges together, not always big problems, but moments that tested patience and understanding. He noticed that when disagreements arose, they handled them differently than before. They would pause, reflect, and speak with care rather than letting frustration take over. He realized that their connection had matured into something steady, reliable, and nurturing. One evening, they attended a small outdoor concert in the park. The music was soft and melodic, and the night was warm. He noticed how she listened closely, how she smiled at moments that moved her, and how she occasionally shared thoughts about the songs. He felt grateful to share such moments with someone who appreciated them so fully. He realized that shared experiences had become the foundation of their connection. They also spent quiet afternoons at home cooking meals, reading together, or simply sitting side by side. He noticed how easy it was to be in silence with her, how comforting it felt just to share space and breathe together. They laughed at small mistakes in the kitchen, enjoyed quiet readings, and found joy in moments that many would consider ordinary. He realized that ordinary moments could feel extraordinary when shared. With someone who understood him, he noticed that he had grown in ways he had not expected. Being with her had taught him patience, empathy, and a deeper appreciation for kindness. He noticed that he listened more intently to others' thought before acting, and felt a stronger desire to make others feel valued and respected. She noticed that he had become more confident, thoughtful, and present, and she admired how he had grown without losing his quiet nature. Over time, they began to reflect on the journey they had shared, from the first casual meeting arranged by friends to the depth of connection they now had. He noticed how much had changed, how much trust and understanding had developed, and how many small moments had built the foundation for the bond they shared. He realized that life sometimes guided you gently toward people who could transform your perspective and your heart. They also started to imagine a life together in gentle ways, not pressured or rushed, but thinking about what kind of experiences they could share, what values they wanted to uphold, and how they could support each other. He felt a quiet excitement, imagining mornings spent together, walks in the park, shared meals, and the comfort of a life built with care and love. She felt the same, and the thought of a shared future brought warmth and reassurance. Even in moments apart, he noticed how much she had become part of his life. He thought of small details, the way she laughed at small jokes, the stories she had told, and the thoughtful gestures she had shown. He realized that his world had changed, and that her presence had brought joy, meaning, and a sense of completeness that he had not known before. They also continued facing challenges together. Sometimes it was the stress of work or small misunderstandings that needed patience and conversation. They discovered that communication, openness, and empathy were powerful tools for maintaining harmony. He noticed that even difficult moments strengthened their bond because they faced them together rather than alone. One weekend, they went for a short hike in the countryside. The air was fresh, the paths winding, and the landscape beautiful. They walked slowly, talking about dreams, goals, and hopes for the future. He noticed how she moved with confidence and curiosity, how she noticed details in nature that he had overlooked. He felt grateful for the perspective she brought to the world and for the ways she inspired him to appreciate life more fully. They shared quiet moments on the hilltops, watching the sun dip below the horizon. He noticed the colors reflecting in her eyes, the calmness in her expression, and the warmth he felt simply being near her. They spoke softly about hopes for the future, about small joys and simple pleasures, and about how they wanted to grow together. He realized that love was not just passion, but also presence, trust, care, and mutual respect. Over time, they began to integrate their lives more fully. They shared routines, meals, walks, and conversations. He noticed how naturally it felt to include her in plans and thoughts. She noticed the same and found comfort in knowing that they could rely on each other. He realized that this steady companionship is a deep form of love that required attention, patience, and care. They also celebrated small victories together, completing a project, trying a new activity, or simply enjoying a beautiful day became occasions for shared joy. They noticed that small moments built the foundation for lasting connection and created memories that strengthened trust and affection. He felt a sense of fulfillment that came from both giving and receiving support and care. Even during quiet evenings alone, he reflected on their journey. He remembered the first meeting, the nervousness, the laughter, the walks, the shared experiences, and the small moments of vulnerability. He realized that each moment had contributed to a connection that was steady, deep, and meaningful. He felt grateful for the unexpected meeting arranged by friends that had led to this bond. He also noticed how her presence had changed him. He was more patient, thoughtful, empathetic, and present. He noticed that he looked forward to small routines, shared experiences, and even quiet moments together. He realized that love was not only about excitement and passion, but also about shared growth, care, and understanding. They began to imagine future adventures, both big and small, not as obligations, but as opportunities to continue exploring life together. He noticed that simply thinking about these moments brought joy and anticipation. He realized that planning a future together felt natural and comforting because the foundation of trust, understanding, and love was already in place. As months passed, he felt a deep sense of certainty about their connection. He admired her not only for her beauty and charm, but for her kindness, strength, patience, and authenticity, he noticed how deeply intertwined their lives had become, how much they trusted each other, and how much they had grown together. He realized that love could be steady, gentle, and still extraordinary. Even in quiet solitude, he thought of her with warmth. He noticed the small details in memory, her gestures, her laughter, her voice. He realized that these memories brought comfort, inspiration, and a sense of connection. Even when they were apart, he felt a quiet excitement for the moments they would continue to share in. The final reflection, he realized that life sometimes surprises you through small nudges and casual meetings. What began as a simple introduction arranged by friends had blossomed into a profound connection. He noticed that trust, patience, understanding, empathy, and shared experiences had created something lasting and meaningful. He felt a gratitude that was deep and quiet for the journey they had shared and for the bond that would continue to grow. He looked forward to the future with hope and joy. Not in certainty or expectation, but in the knowledge that whatever came, their connection would sustain them. He realized that love was not just feeling, but living together, supporting each other and sharing both the extraordinary and ordinary moments. He felt ready to embrace all of it with her.